Listen, no matter what I'm about to say, you're my favorite. Just remember that, all right? Hey YouTube, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. I am here to do a little bit of a toy review because I promised I would, and I got a figure that I am totally excited about, and that is my new Neca Ultimate Dungeons & Dragons 50th Anniversary WARDUKE. This is a great figure with a great paint job, and I'm going to tell you guys all about it in just a moment. But first I got to give a shout out, which I do later in the video and many times, because such a gracious gift from my patron, one of my Patreon members and good friend, Charlie Wrighton. Thank you so much for sending this my way. He sent me a box today, and this was in it, amongst other things that I'm going to talk about later on. But today I'm talking about this guy, and I'm going to get right to it. I'm just going to say thank you very much to my Patreon community. You guys are amazing, and I'm just like constantly dumbfounded and just I'm so lucky to have you guys send me stuff like this, support me for over the years. Charlie's been with me since the beginning. If y'all are interested in checking out my Patreon and joining that community, you can join as little as $2 a month, and it's patreon.com/Adam Crohn. That's me, AC. The link is below in the description of this video, and if you join, you get behind the scenes access. You get to put in questions and ask questions for a Q&A podcast, which I've just switched over to YouTube, and check out the first video format of the You Like Toys podcast. It's the first time. It's episode 107. We've done 106 episodes just on Patreon, and Patreon members will be the only ones who are able to ask questions, and then I'm going to answer them on YouTube in a video, so you guys can see what I'm talking about, the toys we talk about, and all that stuff. So yeah, that behind the scenes stuff, giveaways. I do giveaways. What else? Tips and tricks. You guys can also join one of the tiers where you and I can sit together on a Zoom call, and I can help you with toy design, illustration, making sandwiches, or my oats recipes, whatever you want. So there's all different kinds of tiers. But right now we're going to talk about this guy because he's awesome. And AC, just take it away. Do it. Neca Ultimate's WARDUKE 50th anniversary. This is an homage. The paint style is an homage to the 1983 LJN figure. The classic, the best figure, one of the best figures ever made. The sculpt is almost identical to the original Ultimates figure that came out, and I'll show you some comparisons in just a moment. But there's a couple differences, or at least one difference that I noticed that I'll get to. But I want to just say the paint job on this guy is phenomenal. I own the original, and I was in love with that figure the second I saw it, even though I don't really collect stuff this big. It really hits the mark on the vintage figure, which is one of my favorite figures of all time. And before I go too far, I need to give a shout out, a very, very special, very large shout out to Charlie Wrighton, a member of my Patreon, who sent this figure to me. He is one of my oldest members on my Patreon, and he's constantly sending me just amazing care packages. He knows exactly what I like, and he and I have the same taste and stuff. And just Charlie, thank you so much. He sent me a box of stuff today, and this was in there, and I'm going to be going through the rest of it as well. But this was the prize out of the big one out of the box, and I literally just last night was looking at what this guy would cost and getting him, and I don't buy a lot of stuff for myself because I can't afford it. But then this morning this arrives, and I was just blown away. So thank you so much, Charlie. And thank you to my Patreon community. They are amazing. So this WARDUKE is just smacks of the LJN toy. He does come with less accessories than the original Ultimates figure from Neca. He comes with everything except for the extra hands. So the original Ultimates figure came with an extra metal or armored hand, and then 2 extra bare hands, one pointing and one I think a smaller fist to hold his daggers, of which he still comes with. There's one dagger, goes in his little side satchel here that's dangling from the chain, just like the original Ultimates figure. He also comes with his big sword with the flame effect, which this time around is way easier to take off. The other one, you had to be very careful. You didn't want to break the sword, and I would still be very careful with this one. But it slides on a lot easier. He comes with his shield, which has a brighter silver paint job on it than the original. And then he has his other dagger that's buried in here. Let me move his arm out of the way. His sort of curvy dagger. This guy. Another great sculpt on the weapons. This one is a little bit tight going into the sheath there, so be careful with that. Same web gear, whatever you want to call that, his armor and stuff like that. Back over here, you've got his pouch, his sheath or scabbard for his big sword here, which we can take out. And again, be very careful when you're putting these guys away. This one it's a little bit tight, but it goes. You just want to work it in there real slow. Great looking figure, awesome looking figure. So let me show you some size comparisons. Let me get his sword back in his hand here, and let's get his flame back on. Good stuff. All right, so here is the 50th anniversary, and for comparison, the original NECA Ultimates figure. So you can see a couple of the differences. He's got as I mentioned, a darker, the original has a darker silver, more of a wash effect to it. The whole body is detailed in a very darker tone. You've got his metallic paint job on his helmet, metallic all over. Everywhere there's yellow, it's gold over here, and vice versa. The flame effect, more of like a mystical green, and the original is more of a flame, like a fire effect to it. The yellow parts on this 50th anniversary figure have no wash, so it's just plain stark yellow color. That's why it looks kind of like washed out in the camera here. But I love it because that's how the original was for the most part. Same thing when you turn around the back. It's more of a drab, realistic paint job on the original NECA figure, but which I love. I love this one because it was, when it came out last year, I think it was last year, we were all very excited for it, and it still holds up. It still looks great. It's just a different paint job. It's the only thing, and he comes with more hands, which honestly I don't use. He stays posed like that, which this one will probably stay posed like that as well. But I love the homage to this figure, which was still to date one of the greatest action figures of all time, the original LJN 1983 WARDUKE. Now I mentioned the yellow parts. There is actually a bit of a wash on this yellow here, which is interesting, just for the eyes. This is the Battlematic version, so he's got his trigger in the back for his sword up and down. But just look at that profile. I mean, everything about this figure is flawless. And if you had this in 1983, this one probably came out late 83 or 84 actually, because the Battlematics came out after the originals, which had more of a G.I. Joe O-ring inside, whereas this one has a swivel joints for his legs, which I like a lot better. If you had this when you were a kid in 83, I mean, this was one of the greatest toys your parents could have got you. So I was very lucky to have the original. I didn't have the Battlematic when I was a kid. So that's why I'm so glad to have this homage, the 50th anniversary. It just looks so great, and I might actually display them all together. Usually I keep my modern stuff over here and my vintage stuff over here, but I might display them all together just because they look so freaking great. Great figure all around. NECA really knocked it out of the park with this Ultimate line. I'm not a big fan of Ultimate figures just because of the size and the amount of stuff. I'm a 5 POA vintage guy, but when NECA or any company does it of this quality, kudos. It's a great figure, and I'll definitely collect those where and when I can, as I can afford them. But like I said, my patron Charlie, amazing guy, gracious as hell. So thank you so much, Charlie, for sending that my way. Now I wanted to mention one thing. the biggest difference between the two that I noticed, let me scoot this guy out of the way, and I know it's something that we all struggled with on this original figure, how his armored arm is unable to sit flush against his body, which that one is not as well. But I feel like they solved it a little bit where they, you know, his arm sort of is permanently stuck out. I mean, it'll still go up. And all the articulation is really tight on these guys. That's why I'm not moving around too much. It's just a pain in the butt. But how his arm is sort of stuck out that way, a lot of people, customizers, sort of dug in with a knife and cut through here to try to get the arm to set down. I'm not going to do that. I'll just pose him as he is. But one thing they did on this figure, I don't know if it was intentionally or if it's just my copy or what, but the arm does not stick out as far as it does on that one. And I think you can kind of tell there, if you look, how far the original Ultimate is kind of sticking out compared to the 50th anniversary. So that's kind of cool that they addressed that a little bit, maybe as best as they can. I realize with this articulation, the bodies are made out of, you know, it's different than Marvel Legends or Mezco or stuff like that, where they are built for articulation. These are more built as a display piece, I feel, and display well they do. So that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me on this side, on this one. I know some people it did, but it's even less noticeable on the 50th anniversary. So if that's something that bothered you on this original guy, then the 50th anniversary is for you. And if you're a big fan of the original 1983, then this guy is absolutely for you. So some great figures going on. Kudos again to Neca. I don't have the Elkhorn. I think it's the only one that I'm missing so far that's been released. I can't wait to get him. Neca, if you're watching, please do a Decion. I don't want that Super 7 Ultimate one if I don't have to. I'd rather have one for this line. That Decion is one of my favorite characters out of the whole Dungeons & Dragons mythos, next to WARDUKE here. So again, thank you, Charlie. You guys, thank you for watching. I'm going to pass it back to myself. Look at this guy. Just such a handsome figure. Bright. And I know the camera kind of washes him out, but great figure. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to pass it back to myself. You guys, do it. Get some oats. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Charlie, again, thank you so much. Patreon community, thank you guys so much for being there. This is a great figure. He's going to display really well. And I love, man, I just love, it's such a crazy thing to grow up with this guy and now to have this guy. And I said that before in my original Ultimate WARDUKE review for this guy. Just how crazy it is to have, you know, a 6-inch scale, 7-inch scale figure of one of the greatest toys ever made, which is this guy. And these NECA figures are following suit for a nice modern refresher. So thank you again, y'all, for tuning into my videos, to this video. Make sure to check out my other ones. And if you want to join my Patreon, again, it's patreon.com/Adam Crohn, ADAMCROHN. I'm going to get out of here, and y'all be safe. Do something nice for somebody else, because I know, man, people are doing stuff nice for me all the time. So yeah, I think that's it. I'll see you guys later in the next video. Until then, adios. Sit, Muji, sit. Good dog.